All
Good.
right, let me do a short introduction, okay?
Sure.
And then we'll proceed. Okay, today my guest is Nik Persaud. I like to brag that I've been in the gambling scene for 11 years. Nik has been around gambling for much longer than me. He's been a professional poker player, professional sports bettor, organizer of private poker games in London. Nik has hosted some of the biggest and best games in London, including at the Ritz-Carlton Casino. When I say the Ritz-Carlton, I mean you can't enter this casino unless you're invited. I can tell you that Nik Persaud is friends with all of the big boys of UK that you see on TV, like Sam Trickett and others. But the fact is that Nik Persaud is the big boy himself. He just likes to keep a low profile. Nik is a seasoned professional gambler in every sense of that title. More importantly, Nik is my friend. Welcome, Nik.
Welcome. God bless you, Shakti. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, you're looking well. You look like you're working out. You look like you've beefed up somewhat since we last saw you. Since I last saw you.
Well, I work out. I've been working out for the past 6-7 years, pretty much off and on. I work out, but right now I've actually put on a little bit of fat on top of my muscles. So maybe that's what it is.
That's maybe getting older. You know, you don't like when you hit 40. When I hit 40, I went from a really slim guy, like literally at the age of 40, I just looked down and I had a belly, and it was all of those nights eating all that rich food in casino and not working out, and before it used to just not be there. And then one day I looked and I'm like a skinny guy with a belly, and that's really an unattractive look, you know. So, and it's hard to shift that.
But I've never seen a belly on you, man. You've
well,
always.
I'm trying to get rid of it. I've noticed sugar. That's one of my things. Sugar is like. Sugar is like. I mean,
and alcohol is another version of sugar, basically.
Basically, yeah. So you know, when you go to the Palm and you have a couple beers, and then you know, you go to the casino and you have a couple of wine or champagne. It's a lot of sugar in all of these drinks, you know. Anyway, so I'm trying to do the same with you. I've just started working out as well, and I can honestly say it's the best thing I've done. It's the best life decision I've made, you know, in the last year to actively work out. What it does, it's just so important, you know.
It is amazing, and you try to do it to lose weight. And then when you start doing it, you realize it's a lot more than just losing weight. Your brain works better. Your skin looks better. Just you feel better. You think better. Everything's better.
Absolutely. Your skin, your sleep, you know, you work out hard and then you sleep better at night, which means you get more refreshed. You wake up, you're more productive the next day. It just, so many good things happen by working out. And it's like, I was active as a kid. I went to a really big boys' school. We played a lot of sport, but, you know, somewhere along the, you know, joining, like, I feel like, you know, a mouse on a wheel running around chasing money, chasing money every day. That one of the things that gets left behind is your health and you know, looking after oneself. You know, do you go to the gym? Some guy calls you, said there's a big game where you can win some good money. Do you go to play the big game, or do you go and work out? Well, if you're organized, you should be able to do both. But quite often I was not organized.
I actually started working with a coach recently. Can you believe it? Now there's careers. People are making careers out of it. I know a guy that helps guys like me get organized. So he helps entrepreneurs, business owners, just with their productivity. He's a productivity coach. Can you imagine that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you and I have been doing really similar things over the last, say, 10 years, where we've been playing, you know, most poker players, they just play. Yeah. But you and I decided to almost take two jobs on, which is play and organize and host. And it's like, you know, you're playing in the game, you're in the middle of a hand, some guy comes, can you do this? And you're like, you're not really, I mean, it's really, really draining and, you know, very stressful. But you and I have been on that same journey for the last 10 years because I guess we identified we're trying to maximize the time that we spend doing this, right? And a really good way to maximize it, not only to play, is to be the organizer, which gives you you know, a higher win rate, which gives you a bigger element of control about what's going on.
Yeah.
But you know, it takes its toll. You know, when you and I spoke briefly the other day about doing this podcast, you were like, I think we're both agreeing that we're at a different journey now. Like, we've loved poker. Poker's been a fine mistress to us. It's served us well. I've enjoyed it. I've traveled the world. I've met some really cool people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not completely anti-poker, but I think I'm at the stage in my life now where, you know, I always said to myself, I don't want to be the old guy in the casino that's still grinding a 5-10 game, earning, you know, like who's 67. I mean,
Amen.
I would like
Amen.
to, you know, I would like to think that I would be able to have, you know, more avenues, and, you know, because you live once, and, you know, I've done the poker thing. Listen, it's like I just said, it's been amazing. I've had an amazing time, and I've met some incredible people. I've met people from the royal family. I've met famous sports people. I've met really interesting people, bankers, you know, not that bankers are interested. I guess they are interested, but just all different types of people. I've met criminals. I've met literally, I was at a poker table once, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and there were three guys. One was a solicitor, doctor, and accountant, and then the other, and I was in the middle, and on my left there were like three, you know, very well educated young guys that were learning poker, very smart, on my left. And on my right, there were three career criminals, guys that were armed robbers, been in and out of prison. And then I just laughed, and I was like, you know, where else? And everyone was getting on fine. You know, it wasn't a big game. Everyone had like £1,000, but where else would you find a situation where you've got some really posh English, Oxford, Cambridge, you know, good jobs guys, and then on the right hand side you've got people that rob banks? I mean, and everyone's getting along just perfectly fine with each other, and I remember that to this day. I thought it's amazing how poker can bring people together, right?
Absolutely, Nick. Absolutely. You just articulated that so beautifully. And we've all of us players, like yourself and like me, who've been a part of the high stakes poker scene, we've been a part of this. And if we often don't even tell our friends about it, because it's like, will they even believe us? It's kind of like unbelievable. It's a little weird. And we're not really trying to, you know, I mean, it's just is what it is. And it sounds so weird, but it's not weird. In that setting, it's so normal. Poker is medium where, you know, a person of one type can come together with a person of another type. And sometimes the difference can just be age, you know, where a 65-year-old is bonding with a 25-year-old, and all that matters between the two of them is the hands that they're discussing, or that you bluffed me and then I'm trying to get back at you, and that whole dynamic of competition. You know, that's so beautiful. A 17-year-old could be competing with a 49-year-old, and they could be pals just because they play cards like that. And cards, you know, when you say cards, that could be like any game, and that could be like gambling, but poker is not gambling, and it is a strategic game, and it requires skill, and that's what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's one of those media where you literally can't play with the best in the world in any other thing. Like, if you play Tiger Woods, he'll always beat you. Roger Federer, he'll always beat you. There's no other thing when you can turn up, sit with world champions, sit with the best of the best. And the beautiful thing of it is, you know, any competent, half-decent poker player on his day feels like he can win. And, you know, in the long run, he's never going to beat the best of the best. But, you know, it does have that element of chance and luck. And it's very appealing that a guy can come, like in a tournament. I really think tournament poker is, obviously cash games are the purest form, but tournament poker is a guy, you know, he can buy in for 5,000, 1,000, 10,000 or whatever, play with all world champions, and he can win. There are so many stories of the average guy on the street paying his money in the World Series main event and win it, because Phil Ivey doesn't win it every year. Daniel Negreanu doesn't win it every year. Sam Trickett doesn't win it every year. But, you know, quite often the winner of the World Series is a guy no one's ever heard of. Now, it might be a pro, a small-time pro, or even a big-time pro, but quite often it's just a poker lover who has a job, who is excited that the World Series is on. He pays his 10,000, or he gets in on a satellite and he wins. And that's the real magic of poker. Unfortunately, these days, software is included, and people are, it's like anything. It's a very beautiful game like chess or like backgammon, but unfortunately, the computers are now solving our beautiful game such that if you're willing to sit there for hours on end and study what the computer says you should be doing, then it's going to make you into almost an unbeatable player.
Yeah, but then there's the private game scene, Nick, and we know all about it, right? I mean, the private game scene really differentiates these computer geeks that play poker, and then guys like you and me that network into circles, and we get into circles where the real money is, where the rich guys are, and they're not only playing just to win every single hand, or their goal is not just to play every single hand in the perfect way or with the perfect size of the bet. What they're trying to do is they're trying to have fun. So there is an element of socializing, there is an element of entertainment, there is an element of gambling, and then there is an element of competing strategically as well. But that is only an element. That doesn't become so obsessive that you're just focusing on that, and then you're sitting there with all these charts trying to make the perfect move. It's about having fun and socializing and connecting as well as competing.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to win when they sit down. I played recently with a very wealthy guy, and he was winning or losing 10,000. And as such, that money has no real relevance to his life. But you could see that when he was losing, it was annoying him. And you could see that when he was winning, he was getting quite happy. And, he went from being quite miserable because he was losing. And then he won a really big hand where he got quite lucky. And then he's laughing and joking and telling stories. And at the end, I was like, oh, your mood changed. I was teasing him. I was like, oh, your mood changed a lot when you went from losing to winning. And he was like, yeah, but he goes, I want to win. You see, here's the way these guys are built, right? They're really, like the rich ones that we've seen a lot of that turn up and play. They're basically successful in every part of their life. Work, a lot of them have really good, a wife, kids, quite successful, live in a nice place. They've got a lot of ticks. And yet they come to the poker, and poker is a great leveler. Just because you're good at business or just because you're good at whatever doesn't mean you're going to be good at cards. And I just don't think they can ever have. They're deluded into thinking, but I am good. It must be the luck.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, well,
they can't take the defeat, man. I know a guy right now. I love him dearly. He's become such a close friend in just in about a year, and he's extreme. He's got a lot of money, and he's losing a lot of money regularly at the games. And I try to talk to him. I tell him, you're just new at the game. You should not be playing high stakes. You should go and play lower stakes for a couple of years and then come back. And he doesn't understand. He's like, no, but I don't understand. I always win in life. Whatever I did in life, I just persevere and I win. I said, yes, but you need to go and, persevere in lower stakes first and come up. But he doesn't understand. He's like, no, I'm going to beat them next day. I'm going to beat them next week. I'm going to beat them. And he's just at it, because he's got that relentless attitude. And that is not necessarily a good thing always in poker.
Well, I mean, of course, yes and no. I mean, like you would probably agree that the most successful people I've met, they just never give up. They're like I was just watching Elon Musk, last night, and he was talking to the point where he was working nearly 22 hours out of the 24 in a day, and Tesla nearly failed because of the third version of his car, and the company nearly went bankrupt. But he just never gives up. And I'm not saying whether your friend's going to be any good or not, but where he got to in life by giving up. And maybe one day he has such a crushing defeat that he takes a big step back, takes a break, says to himself, I can't keep going back in the manner that I'm going back without a plan. Yeah. Maybe he gets a coach. Maybe he takes your advice and drops down in stakes to learn it from the bottom. And then maybe he's successful. But poker, poker will give you back exactly what you put in. You know, there isn't, it's just a perfect, poker is such a thing where there's a lot of entitlement in poker. There's a lot of people thinking, well, I should win this because I am this, or I should or would or could. It doesn't work like that. What you put in is what you get out. If you want to be a long-term winner, you have to stick to a lot of rules. You have to be disciplined. You have to not go on tilt. You have to study hands. You have to do a lot of stuff.
I want to touch on a very interesting topic and a question that I wanted to ask you, Nik. As Nik has mentioned before, Nik is 47 years old, right? I can't relate to most 37, 38-year-old guys. Like I can feel the gap between me and them, like in their thinking, in their, like everything. Yet you and I, Nik, and not just you and me, you and anyone else, I see you relate so beautifully to 70-year-olds, you know. What was the name of that wonderful gentleman that was in London for the longest time, lost a lot of money, but was Nari, was it?
Yeah, Uncle Nari. Yeah, Nari.
Uncle Nari. He adored you so much and he could relate to you so much. And yet when we met, I was like a 22-year-old, you know, 24-year-old kid almost in front of you. But you never made me feel like a kid. Like you have this ability, you have a personality, you have a certain flexibility. Well, you're charming, that's true, but a lot of people are charming, but the flexibility that you have to relate to people of so many different age groups and so many different even ethnicities or nationalities, that ability is really special. And I think that's why also that this might be part of the reason why you got so much success as well. But forget about the financial success, just the social dynamics. You're one of the best people that I have seen in this domain. What do you have to say about that?
Because I mean, I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy it. Like, I've noticed that there is a certain personality trait or type that I have that bodes quite well into running these games, whether they be private or public or just playing poker at all. It's like in a classroom, I was always the naughtiest one. I was always up to something. And that is a function of being an only child. And maybe, you know, my dad left when I was young. My parents divorced. You know, my mum was unwell for some period of time. And, you know, quite often I would be 6, 7, 8, 9. I was talking to my girlfriend about this yesterday, you know, in the front room on my own, watching a lot of TV, right? Now, or reading a book, let's say. So I had a lot of solitude in my early childhood. And I guess as I grew up, the feeling of people around me, it made me quite excitable. Like, you know, like when I walked in the Palm Beach, I keep referring to the Palm Beach because it's a place where I played most of my poker. It's like, I wanted a buzz. And before you knew it, I always used to have this trick where if you get like a teaspoon and you put it in the handle of a coffee cup on a saucer, but then you don't fill it with coffee, you fill it with a tissue and cover it with like chocolates. It looks like a cappuccino from even a very short distance. It looks like a cappuccino. And I would always do this trick with the waiters because they would arrange it for me. I was walking, I'd be like, hi guys, and I'd walk around. And then as I'd see like a recreational player that's just got to town or whatever, oh, Abdullah, how we, oh, and then I would flick it forward, right? But obviously nothing would, and these people, they would scream like, you know, I'm spilling a hot coffee all over them. And I guess the answer to your question is it's just a completely unnecessary thing that I did. But it was almost like I have this like metaphorical stick. And when I see quiet and boredom, I poke it and poke it and poke it, like whether it be a poker table, a poker room, or any room. I'm just constantly being naughty and having humor. And I guess that spills out into the poker table because I don't like a quiet game. I like a game when, you know, one guy half, you know, his shirt is off and the chips is in, and another guy is drunk. He's sitting in a chair, and you know, and there's like, you know, good hostess, pretty massage girls, you know, just a real, you know, like a boys club. And I guess a lot of what I do. And I'm not putting it on. Listen, this, just to answer your question, the reason maybe why I did so well in these games and stuff is like, even if this rich businessman wasn't there, like, it's not a show for him. I'm doing that anyway. I mean, if I'm with a bunch of internet kids and we're grinding 5-10, then don't get me wrong, I've sat in some tough games where I know I'm an underdog and I'm probably there to learn or because I've got nothing else to do. I'm driving them all mad anyway. Like, I'm driving the conversation. I'm playing all of these gambling games with them. Like, if I know I don't have edge at poker, I want to gamble 500 red or black on the flop. Like, I'm constantly, you know, there'll be a football game on the TV. I'm trying to bet on that. There's a cricket game, IPL. There's horse racing. There's like, I'm trying to get, I'm trying to unravel people, I guess, as well, you know, to make them enjoy themselves and also to loosen them up, because, you know, when people are loose, the money flows. You know, I've got kids that they wouldn't put the straddle on. They know it's negative EV. They don't want to put the third blind on. But I've got them by the end of the night doing 2,000, 5,000 flips on the flop because they know deep down it's neutral EV, right? They know that they're not giving anything up. But you know, I've just got them where I want them, and you know, and I suppose what I'm trying to say is this naturally naughty nature that I have, you know, fits quite well into poker, because people play to socialize and have fun.
Yeah, man. But you do it especially beautifully, and there is so much the kids can learn from you. You know, guys like, I mean, I do it. I entertain at the table, and I'm social, and I'm never sitting there just with my headphones or just, you know, to myself, and that's so important. But you do it at another level, and I've learned so much from you and other guys like you.
Got two ways of paying money on Betfair, right? So when you open your position, you know, there's two boxes, one that you can back, one you can lay. So you can either bet them on by Indians or you can lay them on by Indians, right? So you're paying some sort of spread there, and then whenever you win or lose, they take 2%, right? So you end up paying
like 4% at least, like 4-5%.
Yeah, let's say. So if you keep betting, well, because you're guessing, right?
Right.
You're essentially guessing, so you really don't know in which direction you'll go in. So you end up just paying. It's like spinning a roulette wheel. If you spin a roulette wheel, you know you're paying 1.5% every time you spin it. For $100, you're paying $1.50. So in the long run, you just can't win. So that's why all recreational gamblers lose, because they're paying this commission that. Again,
but how do some of the guys beat this then? Because you're in touch with some guys that really make millions of pounds. Some of the guys I've heard make hundreds of millions of pounds, you know, doing this. There are syndicates, right? There are betting syndicates. There are full establishments that make so much money doing this that they're now buying football teams and such, right?
Yeah.
So how are these guys doing it?
So I mean, I'm not going to say anything, you know, uncalled
I don't want
for,
you to take. Yeah,
no,
I don't want you to take names, but yeah, okay.
Well, Tony Bloom is the biggest football gambler in the world.
All right, thank you. Yeah, all right, yeah.
But this is public knowledge, right? I mean,
right.
Fine. Just click Google, and right. So Tony Bloom is the biggest football gambler in the world, and I have absolutely no idea how he runs his business. He makes so much of a point of not really, you know, letting the public know exactly what he does. But in very, very simplistic terms, he, a long time ago, with his background in maths, with some clever people, you know, figured out that to establish the probabilities of the teams playing, let's say Manchester United versus Chelsea, if he had better data than anybody else, and he could turn that data into something meaningful, then he can end up weighing out what the probabilities were of, you know, more accurately than, say, the bookies, what the chances of Manchester United were of winning and what chances were of Chelsea winning. Like, his price would be more accurate than let's say at this stage, the market price. And then all he does is then, whenever he sees a mistake where he thinks the bookies have just got their price wrong and there's value, so he makes it 2-1, but he can see all the bookies are 3-1. He'll literally go around the market, grabbing all the 3-1 bit by bit in a coordinated manner, until he gets to the point where he's got enough down and he's happy. And of course, the market will be like, oh, who is this entity coming into us taking our 3-1? We're going to get rid of the 3-2. We're going to take 10,000, but we're going to get rid of that 3-1, and we're going to go into 2-1. And Tony's money therefore ends up correcting the market. But by the time the market becomes correct, Tony's had, you know, £1 million on at 3-1 when he knows the true price is 2-1. So he's just reversing the edge in his favor. And how does he do that? Well, he builds very sophisticated mathematical models and has teams of very experienced, clever people that watch football matches. And I'm sure his information food chain is good. Like, I'm sure Tony Bloom's team know if Cristiano Ronaldo pulls a hamstring in training and pulls up in training on a Friday when he's meant to be playing on a Saturday, I'm sure Tony Bloom's team know that quicker than anybody else, pretty much, right? Like, quicker than you or I. Like, I could be the biggest Juventus fan, you know, and that information will leak into the market at some point, right? That Cristiano Ronaldo's pulled a hamstring. It will leak. But the whole point is like, how does that affect the probability of Juventus? Well, it means they're less likely to win now he's not playing, right? Which means their price is going to shift. And the market is constantly shifting. And I guess what one could argue is at 3:00 when the referee starts the game, that price is right. It's had all of the information pour in. You know, another big thing that changes the price of the market is football teams announce who they're going to play at 1 hour before kickoff. Right. So an hour at 2:00, the whole world knows it. And then the market does move because, you know, there's a lot of people going, oh, Cristiano Ronaldo's not playing. They definitely can't win. I'm going to back the other two. I'm going to bet Lazio.
So they overcorrect. They overcorrect sometimes. And then he takes advantage of that too.
And the really difficult thing that I guess all of the professional syndicates get really right, and I guess is the difficult part, is they weight the importance of things much more accurately than you or I. So, you know, we know that Juve have an 80% of winning at home if Cristiano Ronaldo plays, but then we know he's not playing. So that 80% is going to drop. But how much should it drop?
How much?
By?
Yeah.
5%,
How much? Yeah, exactly.
And they know. They're very good at, because they're running this data. We live in a data world, Shakti, now. Everything can be fed into a computer and an algorithm, and it can be, you know, time and time again. There's been that Tony Bloom's servers have probably got millions of games historically. They know how high performing strikers, when they get injured, how much that affects the price. They know so much about everything. And essentially, and going back to my last point, when you want to beat the bookies or you want to beat the market, you're basically playing against Tony Bloom. Like, when you see all of that football money up at kickoff, a lot of that money is professional syndicate money. So basically what you're saying is, my opinion is better than theirs, which is fucking not. It's not. Your opinion on a football game is not better than Tony Bloom's opinion. It's just not. You might like to bet your favourite team. And it's a bit like the recreational guy at the poker table. Listen, go there, spend what you can afford. If you want to bet your favourite team, if you want to watch a match and you want to put, you know, 50 rupees or 5 lakhs on a game just to give you a kick, then by all means, fine. Do it. It's your kick.
But don't fool yourself by saying that you're going
to win.
Yeah.
Don't,
because to win, you have to beat the market. In other words, millions of people, the information, the odds is a balance of information of millions of people. That includes Tony Bloom. So Tony Bloom has to be wrong, and millions of people have to be wrong, and you have to be right in order for you to win. So how Tony Bloom
consistently, like sports betting is so addictive and attractive to the average person, because you know what, you can win. Listen, you know, you can be the biggest whale ever, and you can pick, you know, 12 Premiership matches over the Saturday, right, from the 12 o'clock games all the way over the weekend, and you could put 10 lakhs on each game, right, 10,000 on each game, and you can get all 12 right. You can. The odds of doing that are very, very low, but you can just win.
And stories like that get glorified. You know, the guys that get it wrong, nobody talks about that. Not even the guy himself will go and say, yeah, because it's not interesting. But the one guy that gets like 14 in a row right, he's going to get glorified. the Bet365 will come and say, okay, this guy put like $100 and won like, 800,000 pounds, something like that. And that guy gets glorified, right? Question. I want to ask you a question. It's a very important question. Why does money not fulfill us? How much is enough? Why does money not fulfill us? And why do some things just fulfill you so much out of the proportion that you didn't even expect? I could right now be playing in a high stakes poker game, making so much money, but I'm sitting here talking to you, recording this podcast that is costing me money, and it's not going to make me any money. Why? What is happening? Why does this happen? Can you tell me this? I'm exploring, but I'd like to hear your take on this.
I mean, I guess if you take the brain as an iceberg, right, which you can see the bit at the top, but there's a huge amount of your subconscious mind underneath. I guess you being you and me knowing you, and maybe the people that listen to this, they don't know you as well as I do, but they get a sense of who you are. But it's quite obvious that you're some guy that is, you want to learn, you want to expand, you want to grow, right? You want to evolve. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think the one at the top is self-actualization. Shelter at the bottom and food. We have some basic human requirements as food and shelter. And as we go up, we want to learn. We want to self-actualize. And I guess why do you do this podcast and not be in a game to increase your money is because your subconscious brain is going, actually, I have enough. So if you wanted to go and buy a nice pair of shoes or, go on holiday or a nice shirt, you can get all of those things. You've worked really hard and, maybe now your subconscious brain is knocking to you saying, but there's more to life than this. There's more to life than, how many watches can you buy? How many pairs of Gucci loafers can you buy? How many, it gives you a nice buzz for a day or two or a week.
I bought three expensive watches and I'm done, I think.
Yeah,
I know that's not it. That the watch is not it.
Yeah, because I guess why you're doing the podcast is because you're trying to ask very complex questions and have a view of people that have been. We've been in the same world. We know each other. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I guess like I'm the London equivalent of you. You're the Dubai equivalent of me in some respects. And you're kind of interested on my journey and what I've learned. And I guess the answer is that, you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to develop. Because I read an article the other day, when people, it's called what was it called? 5 Secrets of the Dying, where a nurse that lived in a care home where people were in their last 3 months of life, they had cancer or whatever, palliative care. She did lots and lots of interviews with these people and 5 regrets of the dying. And it was things that these people, they're at the end of their life. They know they're at the end of their life, right? And you ask them, what do you regret? What would you have done? What would you tell your 30-year-old self now you're 90 or 80 and you're just about to die? Like, if you could go back in the time machine and sit in front of your 30-year-old self, what would you tell them? And a lot of them were very simple things like, they regret not spending enough time with family and friends. They worked too hard. And as a consequence of working too hard, they neglected their family and friends. I can't remember what all 5 are. I mean, I literally, this is like a little mini Bible to me. I really love this article and I did read it the other day, but do you want me to pull it up?
Sure. Go ahead if you want. And I've heard someone wrote a book about this actually.
Yeah. So it is part of a book. Yeah. I mean,
I've heard of this.
Yeah. It's something to do with 5 regrets of the dying. The article that I read was just in the Guardian a few years ago, but of course it's very interesting. And then there's TED Talks about, the success for living over 100 and long life. And as you'll find that, stopping smoking, stopping drinking are 3 and 4, and, doing exercise is 8 and having a flu jab is 5 and all of these things that go into long life. But, what is 1 and 2? And 1 and 2 is the human need to have relationships. Do you speak to the coffee guy when he makes you a coffee? Playing poker, funnily enough, was something that was like right up there 1 or 2. It's like social interaction. Not feeling loneliness. Loneliness is a very terrible thing, and being around people and having connections. And so I guess me and you will be fine, right? We're interacting, we're networking, we're keen to learn. you know, I've learned a lot from Sam. Sam's 10 years younger than me, but he's got a lot of things. Sam Tricker, he's got a lot of things figured out. You know, he's just smart. Some people, I did have a regret with him the other day. I said, you know, I'm 47. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And he goes, just take a deep breath and think about it, right? Yeah, you have been a bit of a late bloomer. You are a bit annoyed at yourself that you've got to 47 and only just started to figure these couple of things out. And maybe you're a bit annoyed and jealous at me that I figured them out at 34. We were laughing and joking, like in a brotherly way about it. And he goes, but you know what? Don't be too hard on yourself, because some people go their whole life not figuring this stuff out. And it comes down to this. Me and him reckon that all anyone ever wants is just to be happy. So your whole life is geared towards, and there's a lot of things that people confuse happiness with, and one of those is money. People think, well, if they get money and then they can buy a nice car like a Rolls Royce, or they think they can buy a nice Rolex or whatever, it's going to make them happy. Not necessarily. It's a trick. You're living in like a matrix game. You're living in a computer game. You're living in some like, you know, and a lot of people, and you know, caring what other people think, you get into a rat race. I'm sure, Shakti, when you were a lot younger, maybe your bankroll was small and you bought your first expensive watch, I bet you were walking into the game like subconsciously hoping that people would give you a compliment on a watch. And where did you get it?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Well, you know, you should.
I thought the rich guys. I thought the rich guys would get impressed, and I realized that they cared the least. They've played that game and they cared the least. And I didn't want to impress my friends. I wanted to impress the rich guys, you know, with the watches, and they don't care about the watches. They bought the watches. They're over the watches.
And also attitude, tolerance, important things to me. Like, let's say there was a time in my life that if someone was rude to me, I wanted to be rude back. That was my natural instinct.
Right.
And I believe younger males have a problem with this because they maybe have higher testosterone levels. So
I still have a problem with that. I still have a problem with that.
Yeah, but as you get older, what I've learned, at least, is being in my late 40s now, and maybe I didn't think this way when I was 27. If someone was rude, I wanted to rude back. You never know what they're going through in life, right? You never know what's creating their or provoking their, you know, reaction towards you. So if you can, like, rather than sink down to their level and get into some war of words, if you can rise above it and just look at them and say, what's wrong? Tell me. Like, particularly if it's someone that you know, or, you know, it could happen with someone you know or happen with a stranger. But if you give them that look, like, I'm not going to fight you. And if you disarm them, then quite often you break people down. You don't have to go in the trenches with them and get in a mud wrestle with them and beat them up and they beat you up. And like, I wanted to fight. And that's to do with testosterone levels. I'm a big believer in this. You know, why do you think 21-year-old boys drive faster than 61-year-old men? And why do young men drive faster and more reckless? And it's testosterone levels are high in danger. And like, there would have been a point where I wouldn't have backed down from a fight, right? I probably would have. I would have weighed up the odds and see if I could win. But if I thought I had a chance, I would have just gone toe to toe. I'm 47 now. You know, a guy in the casino I remember a couple of years ago was really, 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 like, you know, at the blackjack table, funnily enough. And here's the thing, he was drunk and I was sober. And it was a packed table of blackjack, and I think I split something I shouldn't, or I hit something, or I was just messing around or whatever. And he lost his hand and he got really annoyed and he was drunk and he was cursing at me and everything. The old me would want to break his neck, right? Or do something violent or macho or egotistical or whatever. But the new me was like, I just turned around to him and said, buddy, listen, you're embarrassing yourself. You're a grown man. You've had too much to drink. We don't know each other. There's ladies present. You're cursing. You are embarrassing yourself. I mean, you're a young guy. You're in your early 30s. What would your parents think if they could see you right now, the way you're behaving? And then he just had a moment of sobering up, and he was with two friends, and then the two friends like hit him and was like, come on, pull yourself together. But that's the 47-year-old Nik dealing with that guy. The 27-year-old Nik would have gone straight up in his face and be like, what'd you call me? You know, who's the bigger man? You know, like the old lions and the new lions, you know, the new lions, they're fighting. It's about, you see, I guess you've read Sapiens as well, right?
I haven't, but it's on my radar. I bought it, I have it, and it's just like, I haven't read
it's
it,
one
but
of those. I mean, someone like you will get to it, and it's like we have hundreds of thousands of years of blueprint in us. There's certain things that do and not. It's like, we have the amygdala, the back brain. The part that responds to
animal
very basic
instincts. Yeah,
the animal instinct, the sex drive, and the kill drive, and the defense, the flight or fright, all of this kind of stuff. And then we have the front brain, which is more thoughtful, creative, etc. It's hard to fight the amygdala sometimes. You can go, I'm a pacifist, I don't hit people, I'd never get in an argument. Well, I tell you what, that same guy that's the pacifist that wouldn't hit anyone, wouldn't raise a finger, rises above violence, let him walk down the road with his girlfriend and let a guy try and grab his girlfriend and see what he will do. He will turn into fight. Yeah. It's natural. He can't, if someone attacks someone he cared about or loved, he will go from a pacifist into someone that would show aggression, because ultimately he's got milliseconds to deal with something of danger, and certain things kick in, and those certain things have been hundreds of thousands of years of human development, and but we're not lions. We're not, we're not cheetahs or whatever. We're not animals. We are humans, and we're very clever. Look what we're doing to the world and the environment at the moment. We know exactly how to manipulate. The humans are the most manipulative things on the planet, right? 200 years ago, we were a population of 1 billion. 220 years later, we're a population of 6 billion people. There's a lot. Mother Earth is under a lot of pressure. All that food that needs to be produced, all that meat that needs to be consumed. Negranu tweeted yesterday about how much the cows are eating and drinking every day in terms of food and water. It's like 8 times what humans are consuming every day. I mean, but anyway, I digress a bit. But what I'm trying to say is that human development, instinct, neural pathways, addiction, like
a lot of it is not in your control. So all you can do is observe yourself, almost see your patterns, and then avoid slipping. Nik, I'll send you a video about this. Most people don't realize this. I told my mom this, okay? My mom just turned 61, and she's developed an attitude like, oh my God, my life is over now. You guys have grown up, and that sort of thing. And I've told her, what you're not realizing is the life expectancy 50 years ago was like 48 or something like that. I mean, I'm guessing here, right? I don't know the actual numbers, but it was lower, and it's going up and up. Do you know, I'll send you a video about this. There is a new industry that is coming up. It's called genomics. So what they're doing is they're breaking down the human genome, and they're figuring out how to fix things much better than how we were fixing it 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, the cost of breaking down a human genome was like $3 billion. That was the first time it was done, I think, in 2001 or something. And now they recently did it for like $1,000, something like that. And the cost of breaking down a human genome is going down, and they're going to cure cancer and diabetes and heart diseases. Like not cure it, but they're going to get better at catching them sooner than they would catch it before. So they're going to catch cancer much earlier. They're going to catch diabetes or heart problems much earlier. And I think, what I really think is, when our time comes, I think we're going to live to be at least 100 or 110, maybe even 125, if we are careful and lucky. So people who are starting to give up at 55 and 60, I want to say to them, you've got another 50 years to go. Medical advancement, technology is not growing and becoming better at a linear level. It's growing at an exponential level. The rate of growth is increasing, not just the growth is increasing. So the rate at which we are increasing growth is also increasing. So it's going to be really awesome the next 50 years.
Did you say it was your mum that was like talking about being so young and whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it was the goal of her life that, she tells me stories about it. When we were small, she used to get so frustrated with the frustrations of bringing up, children, and she would be like, when will these guys, grow up, and when will they become responsible themselves? And now we have grown up, and now she wants us to go back to being children so that we spend time with her. And, now we're going out and doing our own things and we don't spend enough time with her. I guess I should. But she has this thing about, like, she feels like I don't know what to do, or like my life is over kind of an attitude. And I don't like it.
I don't know like why. It's a very dangerous thing, because here's the thing, right? You as children brought her so much, gave her such a sense of purpose and a reason to get up every day and so much joy. And now you're all just, you've flown the nest, right? You're all adults, you're not there. And at the moment there's a void. She became very used to the feelings that going around in her head, the way, again, going back to the way she felt, and maybe the hormonal responses, like the oxytocin that's being released, the dopamine, all the nice stuff, her baby, she loved. Well, now you're all gone. She doesn't get to see you, so she's not getting those chemical. She needs to, and my mum was the same, think about it. My mum had me at 20, so I left when she was quite young, and my sister has left. And it's the same, my mum's 67, but I don't want her to be an old 67. She could live another 40 years, right? She could live to 107. She needs to keep fit. So now I'm making her do 10,000 steps with her Fitbit, and she walks around with a friend, and walking is great for her. But, the sense of purpose, like, what is the point of life if you've got nothing to live for? Like, you hear about these people where two married couple have been together for 60 years, and then one dies, and then the other one dies soon after. It's such a common thing that you hear, because that person's lost everything. Their world is just gone. They've got, like, they basically, like, or you hear people on their deathbed, like a story I got told the other day, which is a true story, which is some person was very, very sick, hanging on, and then the grandchild came from London, and it took a while to arrange, and then they eventually got there to see the grandparent, and then they left, and they passed away that night, right? So it's that story of having a sense of purpose, like that. Clearly that old sick person held on to see their grandchild from London, and they were in, I don't know, Manchester, and it took time. And as soon as the grandchild came, spent the last few hours, stroked the hand and everything, and obviously had to go back to London, that night the person passed away. Games are important for human development. Look, I've got a chess set right where these playing games are very, they teach humans to strategize, things like chess, things like Go, things like poker, things like backgammon. You might call them games, and it's important for humans to engage, socialize, and have fun. Of course, we've already said in this podcast that doing those things lead to a longer and happier life. But also they're teaching you things, like you've probably learned a lot about risk and managing your money from poker. You've learned not to sit with all of your bankroll in one game, even if it's the best game in the world, because your risk of ruin is so high,
Exactly.
You've learned about patience. You've learned that, as much as you want to play every hand, you can't. Well, you can't profitably, you can't play every hand. In fact, you can do what you want at poker. That's the beauty of it. If it's your money, and if you want to play every hand, you can. You're in control. That's what people love. That's the buzz for them. The boss is not telling them what to do with, 7, 8 of clubs. No one's telling you. It's your money. It's your cards. Do what the hell you want. You want to get to the end and you have 8 high, you can bluff if you want. If you want to give up, you can just check, and you can do it. And it's a very attractive thing with poker,
And there's a difference. There's different styles too. So 20 years ago, someone might tell you that this is the number of hands you want to play, or this is the style that wins, that makes winning players or whatever. But now we've seen enough people do it so many different ways. You can play tight and win. You can play aggressive and win. You can play a lot of hands and win. You can be not so good at poker, but you can be really good at networking and make money that way and win. So there is so many different types of people that make money and that get success in poker. That success is not, it's not like this one straight line anymore. It could be like anything.